Welcome to Explore HVAC and Home Services, where we uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets behind successful businesses. I'm your host, Pam Mashburn, and today we're joined by the owners of Lenz Heating and Cooling. Al and Jenny Lenz are making an impact in the HVAC and home industry in the Des Moines area. I want to dive into how they started. I want to ask you guys about the rewards and challenges of running a family-operated business, and I want to get your best tips for success. So I want to get started and just ask you guys, introduce yourselves, tell us about your family, tell us how you even got into the HVAC industry.
Can we start with how we got involved in it?
So I graduated high school, went in the Marine Corps, and when I got out, I started doing building maintenance and working on boilers, chillers, and things like that. And I seen a lot of guys successful doing heating and cooling, making a lot of money, being able to put food on the table. So in Iowa, it felt like a really good position or career. So I didn't do well in high school. I graduated 1.7 GPA, so I was not excelling or applying myself. But I went to heating and cooling HVAC college and graduated valedictorian in my class. Everything came really easy to me with wiring schematics and understanding the philosophies and principles. So that went very well. So then as soon as I graduated, I started into heating and cooling and learning as much as I surrounded myself by what I viewed as successful people every day I could, and just soaked it all in and applied it, and just was like a sponge. And that's really what projected to where we are today. And then our family.
Yeah. And I just started with the company full-time, it'll be 10 years this summer. Okay. He started Lenz 15 years ago and did that after he'd worked for a variety of different companies here in the metro. And just kind of what he really did was took the pieces that he liked from each one of them, whatever nugget that was, and implemented that to create what he thought was his most ideal company. And then, as the kids started to get older, the first one called when she was ready to graduate college and said, "Hey, would you guys mind if I made this a career?" And it was like, whoa, okay. Freddie, his son, always, at first wanted to be a YouTube sensation. And
okay. Well, then why is he not on here?
I know.
Exactly.
He took a class in high school that made you do a budget and this is your income and things of that sort. And he came home and asked his dad, "Hey, Dad, how much money do you make a year?" And when Al told him, he was like, "Okay, computers are out, YouTube's out the door. I'm going to do HVAC and this is what I want to do." And then, the other two kids had been in education, and we have one that's still a full-time teacher but does part-time work for us. And the other one had been in the schools being a para, pretty thankless job, and decided to come on board too, and has really flourished and is amazing at customer service and just has this, sensitive side that is able to address things with the clients and have, a lot of care and empathy with them. So
I love that. So do you guys have 4 kids working in the business?
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Wow. That's cool. There's no other kids, right?
Nope. Every single one of them is involved.
And you have your dogs involved too, which I love.
Yes. There's a dog in the office every day, hence why the door had to get locked, because they know how to nudge it open. So, yeah.
Well, I have 2 dogs in my office right now, which will probably be in the laps of people when I get done.
Perfect. So.
Yep. Well, okay. So now you guys are, I know you've just kind of opened up another location. And so y'all are pretty big. How many trucks do you guys run? And
we have right around 24 vehicles right now. Actually didn't think it was going to get this big this fast, but it did. And we've been really, really fortunate.
We just year after year continue to grow. And I think that is attributed to our business philosophies and just how we treat people. And, we do a lot of things based off of word of mouth. So many people call us and say, "This person told me to call you," or on chat groups online, I had 4 recommendations for Lenz. And so he and I follow a lot of those sorts of groups too, to just, if we see somebody needs HVAC, we'll throw our own name out. But a lot of times that's after I've already seen my name 4 times, which that is like a highlight of my day.
I know. Y'all have a terrific reputation. Of all of the HVAC businesses I work with, y'all have more reviews on your Google business profile and a lot of repeat reviews, like where somebody is like, they first gave you a review in like 2018, and they've given you another review. And so you guys do have a really loyal following, which I love, but you're also growing.
Yes.
And, one of the things that I love is just your military theme, going back to your roots.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell us about, like, I love that maintenance, that you guys have a special military maintenance program too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for any veteran, we do a free service agreement for life. And then if, if for some reason the spouse that was in the military passes away before the other one, we extend it to the spouse for the rest of their life as well. So,
That is so
like,
great.
if someone passes away, they don't have to worry about their wife worrying about their furnace and air. We can take that off their hands at least and make it easier for them.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. Y'all are, I mean, this is the epitome of a business that cares about their community, cares about the people in the community, and I love that.
Okay.
So, but let's get back to this family thing, because I would love to get my boys involved in this, but I mean, even my husband. But then I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want him coming here and telling me what to do. So tell me how it works with a husband and wife team first, and then I want to talk more about your kids. But, like, was it rough in the beginning, or how did y'all, like, find your, because you've got to go home at the end of the day, right? And tell me how that works.
Well, I was going through it by myself, I was answering the phones, I was doing the bookkeeping, QuickBooks, I was, running the service calls. I'd be working on air conditioning, have to answer a client's call that they have no AC and have to write it down quick and get back to work. And then when Jenny came on board, when we got together, she just took a lot of that off my hands, which for me, I found it hard to let go of the phones and the schedules.
It was like prying the
because I
on-call
took it
phone
so
out of his hand.
serious, but it was refreshing to see how she really, put her spin on that and took the reins and really ran with it further than I ever would have, because I wasn't focusing because I was doing too much. But how we've learned, it wasn't always easy. We step on toes all the time. You just have to rebound, apologize and learn from it. But we really try to stay in our lanes and find things that Jenny is really good at. She's, finance major, which I think helped take the company further than I thought it ever would. She's awesome with the clients. Her customer service level is second to none, especially in this area. So then that teamed up with what I do in the field, and I consider myself one of the best technicians in this area. We try to stay in our lanes most of the time. So I run the field, and I respect Jenny enough to let her run the office. Now that's not always the case, but that's what we strive to do, is stay in our own lanes. So it's kind of like your own career or your own company. She runs the office, I stay out in the field.
Yeah. And I think that that's pretty, important. And it is, you can be amazing. I mean, Al was good on the phones. He was consistent with putting things into QuickBook and things of that sort, but it was just too much. I mean, he was spread too thin, and allowing him to go and focus on what he's really good at. He's really good at troubleshooting. He's really good at dealing with clients. He's also really good at sales, and so letting him focus on that and then taking the other stuff away. There's absolutely no reason why midway through working on somebody's furnace, he should be taking a call because somebody wants to set up a marketing appointment with him. That's not what he should be doing, and so allowing everybody to really focus on what they specialize in. And I just was fortunate enough. I mean, I've had jobs throughout, growing up and things of that sort. And generally it was, working in a restaurant, working at a grocery store, doing those types of things where you have that day-to-day interaction and just dealing with the general public and problem solving. If you work in a restaurant, you're going to come across problems. So figuring out ways to problem solve that and still showing empathy towards a customer, that your concern is valid. Let's figure out how we can fix this and make sure that everybody's happy.
I know. I love that you called it problems, but you didn't call it problem clients. So I love that. That just shows your level of empathy. Well, and I think the other thing that I've seen from both of you guys, and I know has to be true, is just that your ability to lead and to train. I know that there's no way you could have 24 trucks running if you were the only technician. And if you didn't have time to train and put a level of customer service and a level of professionalism in there, you wouldn't have grown as quickly as you guys have. So that's
we
a
train
testament to
every
you
day.
guys.
We work on training. We train every day.
Every day.
Every single day. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's evident. So how do you guys go home and not talk about business?
That takes some work.
That's tough.
That takes some work. We've learned that in the mornings is not the best time to talk about business conversations. So that doesn't work for us. So we really focus on getting in the hot tub every morning, having coffee, leaving our phones out of there, and just focusing on us in that time in the hot tub to start our day before all the crazy challenges happen. So that's helped a lot. And then we have to make date night, and not let it turn into a business meeting.
Yeah. And I think too, at home, a lot of times, and it is tough. So sometimes, during the dinner hour, there may be guys still out working, and we try not to focus on what's happening tomorrow until today is finished, with what the guys are doing out in the field, and gals. So that's where we run into where it's like, okay, everything's done. It's 7:30. Everybody knows what they're doing tomorrow. Now it's shut that off and just focus on us and whatever we want to do, whether that's, binge watching a crazy series, or if that is going to a concert or dinner or a musical or whatever. Just after this period in time, then that part of work, and granted, if an emergency comes up, we'll handle it, but shut that work side off and just focus on the personal side.
Yeah, I think you said y'all are going to see Kid Rock tonight, right?
Yes.
How fun!
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't. For me, what works for me is I can't really focus on date night and stuff until I get all the employees home so they can enjoy their family time. In our industry, especially, burnout's real. People are overworked, so we work really hard on getting people home at a decent time. If they're still working by 5:30, I start to get nervous and fidgety, and I check on them, because I don't want them to not have a balance, and I don't want their families to resent our company and what we do, because we respect their family.
We have an employee who's been with us now a little over 5 years, and he had come from a job where he used to work 80 plus hours a week.
Oh, wow.
And I still remember vividly saying to his young son, I said, at an event where we had all the families together, I said, so how is it having your dad work here? And he said, it's great. I get to see him. And when he comes home, he's happy. That was like so awesome to me. It was like, oh my gosh, this kid recognized, and he was like 8 at the time, that my dad's present and he's not in a bad mood because he's overworked. So
I love that. I mean, that probably really, that's just amazing. It gives me chill bumps, because I know when y'all first started, you were probably working insane hours. And you've gotten your business to a point where it's balanced, you're profitable, people can go home, you guys can take a break. How long did it take for you guys to get to that point, though? I mean, because I know early on it probably wasn't like that.
No, it wasn't like that. It actually helped a lot when the kids started coming into the business one by one, because they would take a load off of this or a load off of that. Hiring the right people on the team, like management types, or a leader that rises to the top, put them in a position where they can really flourish, has helped.
Yeah.
Letting go of the reins for me and not being so controlling helps. So that's taken some self-reflection for sure, because it's hard, because you get in that mode where you feel you can get it done right, so you don't task it, and that's not a good leader. You have to let them, they succeed by failing, so they have to fail and learn from it.
I love that. They succeed by failing. Yeah, those are the lessons. You always hope that people won't take the field trips and they'll just learn from what you say.
Yeah.
But sometimes those field trips and those lessons are more powerful, aren't they?
Yep.
So how has it been, now that you're like, did your kids see you guys working in the business, like growing up? Were they exposed to it? Like, did they ever go out in the truck with you and that kind of stuff?
We have a picture of him with Freddie, and he's got shoebies on, the shoe covers on, and he's in a Lenz hoodie that's probably 2 sizes too big, and he's in a Lenz stocking cap. But he was on a break running calls on a weekend with Al back in the day, and he was what, 6 maybe?
Yeah, 6. He used to run with me.
And that client is still, where that photo was taken, that client is still our client. I mean, Freddie is 19 now. And now Freddie runs service calls in her house, and she will say, "You were this big when I met you, and you were in my house." And that's super cool.
I did it really when he was that young to spend more time with him, because I did work too much, and you can't get that. I don't care how much money you make, you can't get that time back with your kids. Mm-hmm. So I just took him with me. I didn't really think he would probably get into this field, or I actually hoped he didn't choose it just because it was a family business. I wanted him to want it.
Right.
But he turned into loving it, and he's really, really good at it. And I think he's going to go far with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, your CFO is your daughter, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that, and how, because when they're little, giving them that big responsibility, it's kind of hard,
It is, and she actually, it wasn't her major. She went to school. She was on an athletic scholarship. And so she went to school at Virginia Tech. And then she's the one that called and was like, "Hey, what would you think if I wanted to come in the business?" And it was like, well, and what we did, I'm happy about, because originally she had said she wanted to be out in the field and running service and doing sales.
Yeah, because she's got some certifications too, right?
Yep. And so when she got home from school, we threw her in a truck with Al. And so she ran calls, and she liked it, but she really wanted to dive in more of the backside of the business. And so then after she ran about a month or 2 with you in the field, she came in the office and tried in the office. And our goal was to find where each one of them feels the most at home. And she enjoyed it in the office, and she's very detail oriented, which is a huge benefit in the office. Yeah, and she is extremely tight with the purse strings, which makes a CFO very important. And she's not afraid to tell us.
No.
That's the other thing, is having somebody that's strong-willed enough to be like, "Are you sure? Because you did X, Y, and Z at this time, and we ended up with 0 results. So do you really want to venture down this road again?" And things of that sort. So, she is strong-willed enough to give a little bit of pushback when sometimes we need it. It sometimes doesn't necessarily change your mind, but it'll cause you to pause and reevaluate and at least get answers to the questions that she had. And be like, "Well, this is why, and here's the answers to your question." But it's nice to have somebody from the outside, looking in as well. And
she seems very discerning when I've met with her. She's very thoughtful, thinking through the process, and very logical.
Yes.
So it sounds like all of your kids have some different talents and stuff. But I have another question, because I know my oldest son came to work with me one summer. All my kids have worked in the business.
Yes.
He's a software engineer. And I remember all of my girls in my office rolling their eyes because the kids, the boss's kid was coming.
Yeah.
After the first week, they were like, "When is Spencer coming back? Because my phone's not working right." But it took a little while. How did it go with people that have been longtime employees of yours, bringing these kids in the business?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a certain level of, like, I don't know if you want to say jealousy, but they're skeptical, like, "Oh, it's the kid's son." Yeah. But I think they realize in our company pretty quickly that we're hardest on our own children, because we want them to be so successful. Like, I don't give my son as much leeway as I would another employee or another team member.
I would agree,
because I want, if he really wants to take this thing over, he's got a lot to learn, and we don't know how long he has to learn it. So we and Sierra, same thing,
well, that's just it. Is I'm generally a pretty easygoing, calm, whatever, but my kids, all of them, have met this person named Crazy Jenny. That comes out when I've reached my limit. In my lifetime of working, I've only had one place and there was theft going on, that the entire staff, when I was managing, saw Crazy Jenny. And it weeded out the thief at that point in time. So she obviously does her job. But my kids, if they're not doing what they need to do here at work, they can meet Crazy Jenny. And Crazy Jenny means business, and you need to get it done. So the rest of the staff would never meet Crazy Jenny. Because
I hope I don't meet Crazy Jenny. I hope I do everything I'm supposed to.
He in his wedding vow said he didn't want to meet Crazy Jenny again.
I think it's kind of like the coach's kid. You know, people are jealous of the coach's kid, but typically the coach's kid goes through a lot, you know, harsher training, and they're held to a higher
The bar
standard.
is just set really high for them because we want them to do even better than we've done.
Yes.
That's the goal. And so,
and I think they will. I believe that.
Oh, I think so. With the just even the way things are with technology and stuff, they're so quick with it.
Oh, so
they're quick. Like, they want to be like the cutting edge. They want to be like at the forefront of everything that's happening. And so that excites me, where they're like, you know, we, until a few years ago, hand wrote every single invoice because that's the way we did it.
And I didn't let go of that easy. My kids were like all doing the paperless thing, and I was still writing
business
my invoices.
With a handshake. We had a book.
I was like, I'm not changing. I'm not doing that.
He was the last one to get phased in for our dispatching software. We let all the other younger techs do it, and then it's like, okay, Al, everybody else is doing it.
But there's something about a client signing a piece of paper that makes it more like stick, you know?
No, I know. Yeah. No, I know. I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of young people in my office, and they're like, no, you gotta start changing. We got to do this. And I also don't like change when something's working. Yeah, I know there's always something better, but no, I get that. Well, so what about sibling rivalry? Like, how do they get along at work?
That is also a challenge for communication. You know, a lot of challenges come up in family-owned businesses because of lack of communication. They don't share everything with everyone. So we recently implemented a family business meeting once a month where we have dinner at our house, and we have the profit and loss sheets, and we're very transparent on decisions we're making. We get their input. Everyone can give us an input. We don't always base our decisions on what our kids think because they might not see something that we've experienced, but we do take their input very seriously. They're valued, you know, they're heard. And then there's no secret later on that we bought a truck and Sierra didn't agree or, you know, or anything really.
I think it's been super awesome and eye-opening for them too. When we first sat them down, and we just started doing this, like Al said, in 2025, but sitting them down and throwing that profit and loss statement in front of them. And the last one we, compared last year to this year so they could look at it. And it was like, oh, well, this number's really high. Why is this high? And I'm like, that's a red mark in there. I don't want that one to be higher than what last year's was, unless it's purchasing equipment, because that means I'm selling more, but having them go through and start to analyze and really understand what we go through every single day.
Right. It's hard to make money in this world. It's hard. And I don't think kids, when you're growing up, especially kids when I used to have a corporate job, and they don't understand that about the whole money thing and the stress that an owner goes through, because people's livelihoods depend on us too.
Well,
and the decisions we make.
He does too. He's really good about, first of all, we have everybody's headshot up in the office at all times, because when you walk in, I can look at that wall and know why I come in here every day and why I do what I do. And he feels that same way. We have the team write out goal sheets. What are your goals? And we make them do personal and professional goals.
Really?
Because we like to see, we had a gal years ago in the office, and she was doing a great job, but her personal goal was she wanted to get her GED. I had no idea she didn't have a GED. I mean, she was she was like 40, I think. Yeah. And it was like, oh my gosh, okay, what do we need to do? So we start looking online. It ended up her husband got a job and they moved out west, but also making sure, if somebody says, hey, I want to have a casual work life and work 25 to 30 hours a week, but I want to buy myself a new car and a new house. Well, these two things don't line up. So trying to give people guidance too, we really try to dive in with the team and give them guidance financially. Like, you're going to have to do more if this is what your goal is, or if somebody says by year 5 with me, hey, I want to still be delivering equipment. Well, I hired you to be a lead installer. Like this isn't working. And just a lot of people too, we found don't sit down and write out their goals.
Right.
So we feel like that's pretty
That's a really interesting. So how do you guys go about doing that? Do y'all have like a meeting and everybody works on it, or do you like do it as homework? How does that work?
When we hire them, we give them the sheets and
It's
they
in their
fill it out
packets.
in
Yep.
their packets, and then we give them like a week or 2 weeks to really,
Yeah.
we really want them to put thought in it. Because if I don't close a deal for like 3 or 4 visits with a client, I just go back and read them because this is our team that depends
He travels
on
with
us.
them in his truck,
Yeah,
so he can.
So I read them and say, these are their goals. We're not going to accomplish it if I don't make a sale. And so I take them seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
I've even taken my family out front and said when we had no work, a day or two, it's like, look at all these pictures of the team. These are the people and their families that depend on us. So we got to do, we got to do our best.
Buckle down,
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think just that alignment too is really important. I know I won't hire a salesperson unless having a lot of money is important to them.
Yes.
Because I need somebody that wants to make money that's in sales, right?
Even our technicians, I like to have them that they want to make money, because they're kicking leads or talking to the clients firsthand, before I get them home.
And it's different too. Like we've had some people who talk about they want to have money because they want to do stuff, but they also, you find out they don't want to put in the work to have the money to do this stuff. So it's like, you can't just talk about it. You have to be about it. So money's not going to fall in your lap. It didn't fall in his lap. Didn't fall in my lap. It takes work. It takes dedication. It takes, following the plan that he lays out for the guys out in the field, and same thing here in the office. If we follow the process, we'll be successful. But when you veer off course, I can't promise anything.
So do you ever, 2 weeks later, they give you their goals. Do you go, oh, maybe not a good hire? Have you ever had that happen?
Yes.
Yes. Where you're like, this is your life goal. Like this is, okay, you're going to be.
But we do work with them still. And, if that position doesn't work for them, we really work hard at trying to find a position in the company that works, that they can flourish. So,
yeah.
Like Liv, for instance, was teaching and she came out in the field and was doing deliveries and wanted to sell and do sales and service. And I was like, I think she's going to really do good in the office. And, she thought in her mind that, one of her paradigms was not liking the phone. So she just made a paradigm shift and boom, now all of a sudden she's like running the office and she's on and the younger, a lot of people dog out younger team members or even family members, but when in the office, it's so fast paced with internet and House Call Pro and, marketing and the phones and entering all the data correctly that they move so fast that even old,
they tell me to move away from the computer.
More
sometimes.
mature.
They're like, let me just input all of this and do it
They're
for
just
you.
so
And then
fast.
you can go.
It's wonderful.
I love that Al said old and then he went, oh, mature.
Yeah. Because I'm like,
yeah.
No, but I get it. And they are moving so fast. But so finding that right person for the right seat, is, and it sounds like you guys are really intentional about finding the right people. Do you have any tips on,
serious,
like when you're interviewing and hiring, what do you look for?
I used to really value finding people with no experience and training them up. The unfortunate part is when they do leave, you feel like you poured all that in and then they go somewhere else, which is hard. In the field, we've been hiring more experience lately, which has helped me, taking a burden off me of training at all. That's a lot,
Yes.
And it takes a lot of time. So that's helped a lot. So we've been using recently, I think, Indeed, and it's really gotten us a lot of great resumes. In fact, this is probably the best field team we've had.
Wow.
Where it's great. Like, oh gosh, I really kind of have 2 leads on that job today, but that's awesome to feel like you have that many people that could run a job if you needed them to, so when one guy needs a vacation or, we had a guy last week who had death of an extended family member and was gone for a couple days or whatever. And it's like, well, I know I have 2 other people that can step in and do his job and not even like miss a beat.
And kind of like student athletes, like Sierra, student athletes work ethic is unbelievable, right?
That's a great tip.
When they're on a full ride to a college for sports, there's not a lot of partying. I mean, because they have 6 a.m. workouts and they have a 24-hour rule before games or whatever. I mean, they're in the gym doing weights. They're eating right. They're
doing their homework on a bus. You know what I mean? While they're traveling, and it's like I remember her being like, "Okay, we are supposed to be at the hotel by 11. If we get delayed, there's going to be a problem because we're going to have to hotspot from somebody's phone to upload our homework to somebody because we're driving down the road and this bus doesn't have Wi-Fi," and just all of the things in problem solving and time management and just the dedication to any one thing is awesome. I mean, and truthfully, I mean, you are a team when you're working with us, not any one person. Even the service techs go out individually, but their goal is what they're doing is to support their team. So,
and a lot of heating and cooling companies, the office are kind of like held at a higher level. Even in some buildings that I've seen, they put like the call center elevated literally by like 15 feet, like above everyone else. Service techs come after that. Installers are usually bottom of the barrel on a lot of organizations around us. And ours is not that way. Everyone is treated equal. In fact, sometimes our installers climb up higher because we allow them to make a decision. If I go on a job and I sell a job and I forget to sell or I didn't catch a return drop, I don't make my installer, like most owners, go in there and have an uncomfortable conversation and upsell a return drop. We just make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't nickel and dime my clients. If I agree to that price and I missed it because I was there on site, then we just make it happen. I don't go back and charge the client more.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right. I worked at a company that was like that, where they always wanted you to go upsell, and it leaves a bad feeling in the client's mouth. You told me it was going to be $15,600. That's what they planned to pay. You're the expert, not them. So
they don't know what you might not have put on that.
No.
Right.
And installers don't feel comfortable bringing up money like that, so we let them do what they love doing, and that's installation. So.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, just utilizing their talents and letting people work. I mean, I think it's okay for people to grow and be in some little uncomfortable situations, but utilizing people's talents is the best way to do it. I know I gave Al and Jenny some questions, but they're so interesting. I've gone off script a little bit.
We both have, right?
Fortunately, you know your business so well. I know I so much.
And I think for me, years ago when I thought about kids coming in the business, I always said I was going to make them go work for a different heating and cooling company, and really so they could have an opportunity to learn other things and see how good they could have it here. But then mostly this year I've reflected on it, because I said that comment a lot, but I like them not going to other places, because then they don't come with bad habits. So they're only learning the way that we believe is the right way to do business. So it's actually helped not doing that. But it is nice getting a new team member that comes from another company, because they're like, it validates kind of all the things we want to be different about, like, free healthcare, paid dental, free life insurance policy, and all the extras we give. So.
Yeah. Well, but I also think that you guys, we met you guys at Everest Coaching, and and you brought Sierra, you brought Freddie, which I loved seeing the whole family there, to the owners, to an owners meeting to learn, techniques and skills. And that, so even though they didn't come, they're getting exposure to a lot of different HVAC companies that way. But also, I just love that y'all are investing and pouring into them and just really your whole team. Yeah. So I've got a lot of clients that are not as big as you guys are, and they're working on growing. What kind of, and most of them actually, lately, it seems like a lot are bringing in their son-in-law or their son or their daughter. What's some advice that you guys would tell them, those ones that are, behind you guys in the journey? What would you say, like, what would you tell your former self don't do or do more of?
I think there was a period in time where, like, I know it was shortly before I started where we had kind of pulled ourselves. He was pretty much off of social media. And that I think has been a big draw for us. That may not work in everybody's climate, but we're huge on social media.
Sure.
Like I said, a lot of
Gotcha.
those chat groups and things of that sort, where like one is Moms of Waukee. Well, they won't let him in because he's a guy. They've let me in, so I can follow that. And when there's a mom searching for somebody to come take a look at their air conditioner, I can chime in for us, or I can follow, and I can also see, oh, Will comment, so and so always refers us. The minute anything comes up about HVAC, we know there's a solid group of people in each one of the chats that's throwing my name out, which is just awesome to me. I like that, just thrills me to death. But I think, I mean, we jumped on there, we did that. We have always been, the company that says what we're going to do, and we do what we just really stand behind everything we've done. That year too, when I came on board, we had a long discussion, and we talked about playing more on his veteran status and his commitment to, he risked his life. He went out there and said, you spent what, 3 months on US soil when he was in the service for 4 years. So
Oh, wow.
most of the time he was off somewhere defending our country. And that's when we changed the wraps on the vehicles to the American flag. And he'd always kind of done red, white, and blue colors, but just really playing on that. And that's when we started talking about,
Leaning into that. Yeah.
just veterans and things like that. And I think too, word of mouth is huge, and encouraging people to talk about that. What else would you say
Yeah,
not
I
to
think,
do?
no, I think, if I was going to talk to my younger self or companies coming up, we do things different. We don't charge a trip charge or overtime charge. People are scared to do that, but clients don't like to pay a trip charge because they're used to seeing a heating and cooling guy at a gas station smoking a cigarette. That's their trip charge. That's in their, in their mindset. That's what they're paying for. No trip charge and overtime charge. Because if I don't earn their business, I don't want to collect a cent. That way
Wow.
they can't complain. If I didn't earn the right to fix your unit today or replace it, I don't want your money. That's not our goal. Our goal is building relationships, not focused on the money. Obviously, we have to make money or we're not going to be here.
Mhm.
I would also tell myself, answer that phone. You got to answer the phone, even on the weekend, even in the middle of the night, to book that call. Don't let your technicians get burnt out. That's an easy thing that happens, especially for a smaller business because they don't have enough staff.
Right.
Don't be afraid to raise your prices. Yes, you're going to be more expensive than some of your competitors, but as I've learned and seen recently, raising your prices, we would lose a couple jobs, but the amount that we get to charge to make our 20% net profit before taxes, again, that's another topic people should focus on. Most of the companies around here are getting between 3 and 8% net profit.
Yeah.
Even the bigger ones. You focus on that 20% net profit, and you will have the funds to do things that you want to do for your team, and pour back in the business so you sustain. The ones that are 3 to 8% net profit, they're not going to probably be here within 5 years.
I think too, like you said, to sustain, I think some people jump in and they start making money, and right then it's like they're spending the money as fast as they're making it, and they're not spending it on, like he said, reinvesting in the business, forever. We don't function with a company credit card.
We don't have a bank loan that we had to back. We just, if we don't have it, we didn't have it, and that's how we grew. And do not buy new vehicles with companies that are younger than us. Like, do not buy new vehicles. They're going to smoke in them. They're not going to keep them as nice as you. Armor All is going to go on the dash only when I say, like, huge brick and mortar buildings. Do not watch the bottom line at all. They just cost money. People are not impressed in heating and cooling by your brick and mortar building. Our building that we're in right now is smaller, but it was $172,000. That's where you want to be. You don't want to have a $2 million building just to look like you're big.
Yeah, we did that too. And in our area, I would say 98% of the heating and cooling companies, their brick and mortar is tucked off in some industrial back area.
Yeah.
Our building that we have for our office, now our second location is the warehouse, the new one that we've purchased. But this primary location, we get 20,000 vehicles by a day. So
So
I don't
smart.
need to put up a billboard because my building functions as that.
That's right.
So
So when we were dumping equipment, we just used a storage unit and paid by the month. And we just threw the equipment in there. The scrap guy came to get it. So we didn't have a huge warehouse because where we buy our furnaces and parts are our warehouses. So we shouldn't need a huge warehouse. Now we've evolved to that, but we've been around,
15 years.
Yeah, and we're hitting the goals that we need. So the warehouse finally made sense. But in my beginning, with a lot of my mistakes, I wasn't watching the numbers regularly. I just thought I was charging enough and see where it worked out. But if you really dig into the numbers, you can make sure you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Well, you can't wear every hat as
No.
the owner. And I think it's great that you guys have been able to pull your family in. I mean, they're great kids. I don't know if I get to call them kids anymore, but anybody that's like less than 30 is a kid at this point.
Yeah.
You guys have shared so much great advice. I took a ton of notes because I just think it's good, even just for business. I love that you've been so fiscally responsible and conservative. I admire that. I'm the same way. I grew smaller. I grew slower, but I grew more stable because I didn't want to take any of those loans. So I get that. And I think every business when they're trying to grow is trying to figure out, like, do I need to have money to make money? And so I think you guys have done it the right way. I love that Al is holding y'all to excellence. And I think that's great. And so it sounds like you guys have done some really great things. I also have decided that that me and my husband need to buy a hot tub.
Yes.
So
That's
that we can have our mornings there without talking about work.
About 20 minutes or so, having a coffee, sitting in the hot tub is just, it's awesome. It just gets your day started. It limbers up your body when you're our age.
I mean, how could you have a bad day? You start off drinking a hot coffee, beautiful hot tub, and your wife in a bikini. Like, what more you want?
What more? No, I love that. I love that you don't focus on tomorrow until the day is finished. So you don't worry about tomorrow. You just focus on today. I love that you said you make sure your employees are okay, that you're trying to take care of them so that they're not getting burnout and you guys are not getting burnout and you've got more of a balance. And I just love that. And I also love that you've allowed your children and your employees to succeed by failing, because that's pretty brave, because nobody wants to have any failures in their business. But I'm sure that you guys have good boundaries in place for that.
Yeah.
And then my number one takeaway, well, I also love the student athlete being great hires. I'm putting that in my toolbox of business tools. But the thing that I loved the most was the family business dinner.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of anybody else doing that, and looking at the P&L and being so transparent and inviting your children to become partners and in the endeavors that you guys are doing with your ownership. So that's I think there's a lot of people out there that are probably going, I don't know if I could do that with my kids. So I think it's great that y'all have, kind of evolved your family to that point, because I mean, family is everything. So
it is.
It's kind of like, when you use your debit card, if you're not in your bank account all the time, it don't feel like it costs as much, and my grandfather taught me a long time ago, when you buy something, how many hours did it take to buy that piece? How many hours of labor did it take to buy that, whatever it was, and we try to instill that with our kids. But if they're seeing the P&L, they know how much stuff is. Like, oh my gosh, how much is this G payment? Well, that's yours, Sierra.
Yeah.
Well, she's paid it off now, but for example, like there's something on there,
health insurance
or
went
marketing,
up this year.
Yeah, health insurance. They wouldn't know that without looking at a P&L. We can tell them, but when they see it on the paper,
and they're like, "Wow, this year to date, we've already paid an extra, $5,000. That's a big deal, because by the end of the year, we will have paid an extra, $15,000, $20,000. That's a huge increase in expense."
Well, and when you think about, I know we were talking about it in our office. I said, I'm just trying to do quick numbers, so I may mess it up. But if you're at a 20% net profit and you it just costs you $5,000. That means that you have to sell more. It's not like you just go and sell 5,000 more dollars, right? Because this came off of the profit line, helping people understand what the profit and loss looks like, and in the amount of time it takes to do labor to make up for that deficit is really important.
Well, they got to see how serious I took it. I was on a plane to Everest and I was peeling apart my P&L and for the end of the year, and I only hit 15% net profit, and I was so hard on myself, and I was evaluating it like, what did I do? And it was just a couple small marketing decisions that I made that didn't really pan out, that really cost me that 5%. And I wasn't really watching the numbers close enough to see it before it was the end of the year, but we got that dialed in. This year should be awesome. I'm looking for a 22% this year. So.
Oh, good. I hope that we're going to be a part of that since we're helping with your marketing. I know we're bringing a lot of new clients y'all's way, and so we're excited about that. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and close up with this. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I hope that you listeners will join us next time on Explore HVAC and Home Services. We love sharing valuable advice from people that are actually in the field doing the work. And we appreciate your time. Thank you guys, Al and Jenny. And I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys grow and sharing some more awesome tips that y'all have. So for our listeners, keep learning, keep growing and exploring, and we'll see you next time. God bless.